So this is literally the photo from, this is the photo that Walt shared with us. So this is overlaid over the general area that it is in terms of this large map. So Mobai's moving it around right now. And the idea here is I was trying to think through some data layers piece, but also thinking through, like, see, Spatial likes to stick stuff to the wall here. So this idea, maybe there's a wall, maybe there's a big pin board, and we can kind of steal this idea from them. Yeah, so no, right now you're in my room, which is about half the size of this virtual room. Um, but everything fits, and then you just have to get over the weird vertigo of walking through an object because it is kind of, I'm serious, it's actually super weird. In fact, when I develop with this stuff for a while, I take it off and then I still walk around the objects, and it's pretty weird. They've done some studies on this, but I feel like I'm going to hit into something, because my visual system is telling me there's an object right here. So I've tested this on HoloLens and Magic Leap because HoloLens you can get really close to objects, whereas Magic Leap you can't. So this map is going to need some rule setting, or at least some interface for how to move it up and down in some way or another, and maybe scale it. But the idea that has always been in the concepts that we had was there should be like the zoomed in map where you see things that matter to you, and then there's the whole context map where you see everything, and they should be in somewhat relation where you can understand where are you zoomed in and relative to your giant map. And that doesn't have an icon yet. But what I wanted to talk about for us to think about is that in this map, and you'll see it more clearly in this video that I'm going to share with us of me saying this, is that you've got all these icons and things, and they're flat. They're stuck to the map. Now what I started doing was making icons and bringing them up above. For example, this is the division break icon, and it's been rendered in a style of black and white, because there's also this element of colors are a little weird. Colors vary really big between these devices, even between a Magic Leap and a HoloLens, and even between copies of Magic Leaps. The colors are very inconsistent. So, and also all these iconography on this map is all mostly, the only colors in it are kind of reds and blues. There's really not a lot of other color that goes on in this stuff. So I'm trying, we're doing, not reinventing the wheel, right? We're making something the firefighters will understand. But this is the point, is that by making these icons 3D, you have sort of a weird moment where, okay, so now you have 3D icons. They would normally be in the ground. And then you're going to move them up somewhere. Okay, well, first of all, black disappears. Inside of a spatial computer, black equals invisible. So it's also a trick. It's a handy way of saying, I want to make an object invisible, make it black. So you have to make some kind of visual, you have to make another color. There has to be two colors inside of the thing, or otherwise you're going to lose it, or some kind of shading rule or something. But when you put these icons up above the map, it looks cool in the concepts, but what I noticed pretty quickly was that it can also get in your way. So for example, there's a small icon here of the road closure, and I put it on the map, and then what happens, unfortunately, you can't see it, but you'll see it in this video, and Mobai can see it, is if you're looking right here, if you can sort of see where I'm pointing, when you look at it, it will obstruct your view of things behind it. So since it's 3D, the problem is, yes, now it's visible because it's in 3D and you can see it more clearly. But then the problem is it's occluding the map itself behind it. So this is something to work on, and including things like this is we could call it a segment of the fire line, which will need a rule for how to turn this fire line into an arbitrary string of stuff, not string, sorry, like a line, right? Because it's a fire line. And even this, when you put it up in the air, and again, this will make more sense in the video, is that it'll occlude the map behind it. So what's happening here, I'm realizing, is that approaching our map and being very transparency rules, or we could also try and approach it as things show up and then they leave a line or some kind of trail anchor of where they are and they go somewhere where they're always supposed to be. I always know my drones will be over there and they're linked in some way. They've got a unit number or whatever, and then I can see when I look at them where they are with some kind of icon. Let me go find an icon. This icon says mine. It's just random icon. And maybe it's here, right? So now I know there's some connection between the drone footage and the where's my pen? There we go. Come on, little guy. There's some connection between the drone footage and the oops. Oh goodness. When you're drawing with holograms, it's kind of weird. Okay, and whatever. And there's some kind of a connection between them, and they always live in somewhere, or they live on the map, or both. So these are the things at play in the hologram scenario case. To summarize, the map works in terms of it being a topo map. That's helpful. The iconography should be sparingly 3D, really. You wouldn't want to leave these things here unless they were relevant in some way or helped you understand something. And then, the sort of rules about displaying things that happen on the map will be important, and figuring out a system for that, and then layering. So we might get a lot of value out of layering 2D, or we could call them 2.5D items. Is Mobile raising his hand, or is he pointing at something? Any questions? I wish I could be showing you my screen, but you'll see my videos I'll share after this. I'm sure you have a million questions, but the whole view, I have to stand pretty far back. But if I want to get closer to it, I just get closer to it. And so a lot of the interaction mode could actually be handled by physical locomotion. Now, I know that's slightly ableist, but and it's actually pretty ableist, but our user base, from what I've been able to see so far, are all consisting of, or at least maybe not all, I don't want to generalize, but most of them seem to be ambulatory in some way. They can walk or otherwise move. So when we're talking about interacting with the hologram, the more that I've been standing in this space trying to imagine myself, managing this situation, what I end up doing is I just walk around. I just look at stuff. So instead of like screwing around and moving an icon and doing all this gibberish, I just go look at it. And that's the benefit of it being a spatial thing, is if I want to get close to something, I just go right up to it and I look at what it says, and then I walk back and I take in the whole picture. So we may be able to, the reason I'm saying this is because we may be able to do a lot of our design heavy lifting by just having some nice layout, high quality maps, good renderings, decent rules on the icons as they're coming up, and very sparing, and then that kind of the back, anything in the back might move to follow your view. Maybe there's a way to pin something, right? Maybe there's a way to say, this should follow me. And maybe there's a way to say this wall is always the wall where things show up. People can send me messages here or something like that. And drive the interaction, not with even high technology like eye gaze. Just drive it by walking around. And that's how you interact with the hologram space. Now there's pros and cons to that in terms of fatigue. You don't want somebody to get too fatigued. So I also experimented with sitting in a chair and looking at this, which is sort of funny. Because now you're actually, in a way, going between chair and standing gives you a new perspective of the incident. So when I sit down, now I'm looking at the map sideways. And then I start to see the topography better. And then if I want to go look at it, if I'm in a rolly chair, I can roll around, right? And that's not terribly difficult to do. It's a bit silly, but the benefit of this technology is that you've got this infinite amount of graphics, and the way you can get to it is, rather than page turns, right, where you don't know where you are, you're in a physical space, which we know how to navigate physical space. So you won't, what I'm saying is you don't get lost. Like I found that after sitting here for about 10, 15 minutes, I knew where things were, as long as they weren't moving around too much. So there's a balance there. So these are really high level observations, but I am sharing them with the team because, the more we steep in this, I think the better we'll do. But I will say that I would argue for our first implementation, we focus entirely on high quality map rendering, good iconography, clear text legibility, and not worry so much about kind of next generation interaction paradigm, and just instead solve for making a really nice laid out room. And then we can figure out where there's a chance to kind of make that more sci-fi, bring things to my face and do stuff like that. Because the Magic Leap has certain features that we could work with. But I'm saying so far, and I'm not just saying this, just to help us be more lazy or whatever, because there's other work in making sure our map works well and making sure things are laid out effectively and all that. But I'm saying that in terms of usability, I was surprised at how distracting 3D icons are. So that already gave me got to be careful with those. So that helps us. We don't need to worry so much about them. And then how much I would rather just go walk up to something than try and manipulate it. So I think that's going to be useful. Is that, and effectively, right now, this is locked in place. I can't move it in the app. And that creates a level of solidity that is actually really appreciated. This world's not moving around, and it's just there. It's like it's in a room, and I think that's where we can grow from there, is what I'm getting at. If we solve those problems, because really in this experience, the driver of the experience is the map. And again, as I noticed, as I was looking, actual satellite maps are pretty hard to read in this technology at this current stage. They look like brown crap. They don't really have the fidelity you're going to get on a screen. So that also changed my whole approach. And Mobile, I'll let you comment after I say that. What I'm finding is we're going to have to focus on vector style graphics, potentially literally vector graphics. And that's where we're going to deliver our good